Hello everyone, I'm Sunil. I welcome you back to my YouTube channel Tech Basics.
Before we go for while loop and do while loop,
And what I'll do is we'll try to execute some of the programs using for loop, and the same programs later we'll try to do with the help of other loop statements like while loop, do while loop, and so on. So let's try to understand and go for solving of some examples using the looping statements. So the first example says Raj wants to display the name of the company and the address of his company for 100 times so as to print it in the form of visiting cards. So if you want to create 100 visiting cards wherein you want to display probably your name along with the company address, then you can do it with the help of a for loop or a while loop or do while loop. As we said, a looping statement is normally used to perform a task for n number of times. So here you want to display the name of the company, you want to display the address of the company for 100 number of times. So how do we solve this? So it's a simple program wherein just you need to write a printf statement, and there you can mention, I will try to write my own name over there. Slash and I am using so that I can go for the next line, and then I will say some address I will try to specify over there, Banjara Hills. House number say 101 Banjara Hills, and then you can write your city name over there, Hyderabad \n, and then you can mention some state name. You can mention your phone number, so on, so on. So now if I write printf statement, I write my name, I write my address, okay, and then if I execute the program, you know that it is going to display this particular output only for one number of time. So here you get Hyderabad on the same line because you have not used your escape sequence \n. So do that and then execute the program, so you get it in this fashion. You get your name and the address for only one number of time. Now what is that we want to do? We want to do this for 100 times. You want to print it for 100 times. So how is that you are going to do? You are not going to write it for 100 times. You are going to write it only for one time, but you will ensure that this is going to get executed for 100 times. So for that you will make use of your looping statement. So I will start with a for loop. So in order to go for initialization, I require a variable, so I'll take a variable I. You can take any variable over there, it's not compulsory that it should be I and so on. So you start with I value as 1, and you want to do it for how many times? You want to do it for 100 times, so you will write a condition I less than or equal to 100. And then once it completes, so how it is going to execute? It is going to be 1, it is less than 100, so it is going to perform this task. And then you want to make the value of I to change it to 101, from 1 to 2. So you will write it as I plus plus, or you write it as plus I. And as you have written group of statements over here, you need to make it as a compound statement, which means what? This for loop is now going to execute all these statements for 100 number of times till the condition is true. Once again I'll repeat. It starts by saying I equals to 1, then it will check the condition, 1 is less than 100, so it will execute the statements over here, and then the value of I is incremented by 1. So I now becomes 2. Again it will check for the condition, 2 is less than 100, it will execute the statements, then it will increment. Again the value of I is 3, so 3 is less than 100, so on it continues. So when the condition fails, when the value of I happens to be greater than 100, which means when the value of I becomes 101, your statement over here, or the condition that you have mentioned over here is false, and then it will come out of this for loop. That means how many times these statements are getting executed? They are going to get executed for 100 times. So just try to execute this now. So you will see that they got executed for 100 times, but in order to make you understand, I will change it again to 2 number of times, and then I will execute this particular statement. After this last line, I am writing 2 times /n, so that you will get a gap between 2 or 3 number of times /n, so that you get a gap between the first print and the second print. So you can see this now. So you got here your name, your address, and then you got some space because of we writing here escape sequence for 3 number of time, and then again you got the name along with the address. So this way you can print the name and address for 2 times, 1000 times, 1 lakh times, and so on. And then once you print it on a particular paper, it can become your visiting card and so on. You can add up some logos to that and so on. So this is how you are going to make use of your loop statement called as a for loop statement. We'll then try to solve here the next example. What it says, Raj wants to display the serial numbers from 1 to 1000 so as to make use of it while counting the number of vehicles passing on a bridge by striking the numbers. So if you remember, sometimes whenever we go for marking of your score in cricket, we do have a sheet wherein numbers are given from 1 to some number, that is 1 to 100 or 1 to 1000 and so on, like, and then as the number of runs are scored, we try to strike the numbers over there. In the similar way over here, we want to print here the numbers from 1 to 1000 so that it can be used for counting some number of vehicles and so on. So what the program we need to do? We need to display numbers from 1 to 1000. So you need to start initialization from 1 and you need to see that the number reaches 1000. So how we are going to do this? So what do you do now? You again write a for loop. So if I just say here printf, if I say value of I equals to %d, and then if I write I, okay, you can have here tab /t will give you 8 spaces between the numbers. So if I do this in this fashion, okay, wherein I will start the value of I as 1, you know that it is going to display the value of I and it will display it as only 1. But now you want to display this, or you want to make execution of this particular statement for 1000 times. So for that, what do? You write a for loop. You say for I equals to 1 and you have to go up to 1000 and then you want to increment the value by 1. So you can write over here I plus plus. As you have only one statement over here, you need not to make use of the braces over there, which will make it as compound statement and so on. Now see what happens when you execute this. So value of I starts with 1 and it will go up to 1000. So you can see over there, it started with 1. You got the numbers from 1, 2, 3, 4, so on, it continues, and then it will go and it will display the last number as I equals to 1000,999, and then it will display the value of I as 1000. So if you want to do it in a reverse order, what is that we need to do then? Yes, try to think on this. If I want to print the numbers in the reverse order, what I should do? I should just start with, I should just start with 100. Just start with 1000. So 1000 to 1 you want to print. So 1000 is always greater than 1. So you write here greater than or equal to 1. So if you want to make 1000 to come down to 1, you have to decrement and not increment the value. So you will say I minus minus. So now what happens? It starts with 1000 and it will come down up to 1. You can see the result over there, and what is the last result? Value of I is 1. So if you go backward, it has started displaying the values from 1000 and it has come down up to 1 and so on. Now in the similar way, if you want to print the numbers as 1, 3, 5, 7, odd numbers from 1 to 100, so what is that you are going to do? You will say I equals to 1, I less than equals to say 100, and then instead of I saying plus plus, so plus plus will do what? It will increment the value of I by 1 and you will get here the values from 1 to 100. But what do you want? You want 1, then after that you want 3. So what I should do here? I should write here I equals to I plus 2. You cannot write plus plus plus, not available. Only plus plus is available to increment, minus minus to decrement. If at all you want to increase by more than 1, you should say I equals to I plus 2 or I plus equals to 2, as we have seen in the last video. Now you can see I value starts with 1 and every time it increments by 2 and it will reach up to 100. So what is the value of I? It is 1, then 3, 5, 7, so on. It has gone up to the last value, which will be 99, because you do not want to print more than 100. So the last value that it prints will be 99. In the similar way, if you want to print all the even numbers, then you can start here either with 0 or you can start with 2. A small change over here will print all the numbers which are factors of 2 or even numbers like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so on up to 100. So this is how you can make use of this for loop in order to make a particular statement or group of statements to execute for a number of times. Okay, let's try to go with the third example over here, which is mentioned. The third example is Raj company wants to count average age of the employees in his company, assuming that there are 10 employees. So what is that you want to do? You want to find out what is the average age of the employees who are working in his company, Raj company. So we need to accept the age of 10 employees, and then you need to find out the sum and you need to find out the average. So how we are going to do this? So if you remember, somewhere in a child age, we were asked to count the number of coins that you have, or you were asked to count how many rupees the coins make up. So what we do in that case, suppose say you have 1 rupee, 2 rupee and 5 rupees coins, then what do? You pick up a coin. Suppose say the coin happens to be 5 rupee coin, then you will say initial count is 5. Then you will again pick up a coin, and if it happens to be 2, then you will say initial value is 5 plus 2. Then you will pick up a coin, again if it is 5, then you will again say earlier value 5 plus 2 was 7, now you will add 5 to that, which is 12. So in this way, every time you will pick up a coin and then you will try to add it to the previous value. The same thing we need to do over here now. Let's try to see how do we write a code for this. So you declare here integer age, you declare the sum, okay, and make the sum initially start with 0, and then you declare the average. Average I will always declare it as float because you will perform division operation over there, which we have seen in our second or third video. Okay, now what is that you want to do? You want to accept from the user the age of an employee. So you will say enter the age of an employee. Okay, always make use of this backslash. How you are going to accept this? You will say scanf, as it is declared as integer. You will say %d ampersand age. Okay, so you will accept the age. Now this is the age of the first person. So what do? You add this age to the sum. What is sum initially? 0. So what do? You say sum equals to sum plus age. So what it becomes now? If suppose say the age that you have given is 20, earlier some value is 0. So it becomes 0 plus 20. And where you are storing the result? We are storing the result back in sum. So now what is the value of sum? It is going to be 20. So try to display this. Printf age is equal to %d, as it is age is equal to %d, you will write it as sum. Okay. Instead of saying age, I will say sum of age. Right? Yeah. Now see this. So your program is going to ask you to enter the age. You give the age as 20. So now what it will display? It will say the sum of age is 20. Now you do it for 10 times. So 10 times you accept the age, 10 times you calculate the sum. Okay. How we are going to do this? This particular statement you will now enclose in a for loop wherein you need to see that the for loop starts with 1. It goes up to 10 by incrementing every time by 1. And then put everything in this for loop, all these things in a for loop. Okay. You need to declare this variable I. You can declare it as integer. So what happens now? What you have done earlier now will get repeated for how many times? 10 times. Make use of backslash n over here. See this now. It is asking you to enter the age. You enter the age as say 10. It says sum is 10. You enter the second age as the second employee age as 20. It says now the sum is how much? Earlier age 10 plus 20, 30. Now you say 20, 50. Again. You can do this for how many times you are going to do this now? You are going to do this for 10 times. So what you got? You got the sum of age, which is 220, and this is sum of age for 10 employees. But what is that you want? You want the average. So how many times you will perform the average? Not every time when you perform the sum, because you want the average for the last sum. So what do you do? That particular statement wherein you calculate average, see that it is outside the for loop so that it happens only for one time. So how do you write? Average equals to the sum that you have divided by 10, and as we know, in order to display it in the form of float, you will write it as 10.0. Make the numerator or the denominator as a float value, and then you can display over here average age of the employees equals to %f, and then you will say ABJ. Now see what happens. So instead of I executing for 10 times, what I'll do is I'll just do it for 3 times for convenience in order to execute and show you the output. So just execute this. So the age of the person, you say 20. So you got the sum as 20, next you say 30. So you got the sum as 50, next you say the age as 10. So you get the sum now as 60, and because we completed this for 3 employees, finally you will get the average age of the employees. Average age of the employees is how much? 60 by, not 10 now. I made a mistake here. It should not be 10 now because we have changed it to 3. So it has to be sum by 3. How you are going to do this? Repeat once again. 20, 30, and you can say 10. So then the sum is 60 and your average happens to be 20. You can do it for any number of times. You can enter any value over there as per your choice and so on. Then you will see the average age will be displayed to you. So this way you can make this program to run for 3 times, 10 times, 100 times, 1000 times. So for that what you need to do, just change this to 1000 times. It will execute for 10,000 times, 1000 times, or the number of times you want, and so on. So this is how we are going to make use of the for loops in order to repeat a given task for number of times. So by this we must be very clear what statement should be inside the for loop, what statement to be written outside the for loop, and when do we need to make use of this curly brackets wherein you make the statements as a compound statement and so on. So with this I will stop this video over here. In the next video, we'll try to understand how to work with a while loop, do while loop, nested loops, and so on. Thank you.